Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. This is Jessop's Journal.
Hey, Brandon, great to see you.
Hey.
Let's go chat.
It's time to sign into Jessop's Journal.
Great. It's a privilege.
Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal from the Urban Lounge. With me today, Brandon Fugal. Brandon, thanks for coming on.
It's good to be with you.
I've been able to go all over this state and do road tours and things, and there's this little tiny area, they call it the basin. The basin, okay?
Yep.
You're familiar
The
with
Uintah Basin.
The Uintah Basin, you know, it's the vernal area and everything. I remember there was this really cool ceremony out at a little place called Fort Duchesne, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's the Ute Indian tribes, and they were doing a memorial dance and ceremony and everything. And I was quite impressed by that, in that the traditions and the way that things kind of have been done for a long time. Well, there's all kinds of things that happen out there. And you apparently have a connection to the land right next to those guys.
It's literally in the dead center of the Uintah Basin. If you pull up Google Earth and you locate the exact center of the Uintah Basin, it happens to fall on a unique piece of property that I acquired roughly 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. This 512-acre assemblage has become really the site of not only global interest, but is the most scientifically studied paranormal hotspot on the planet. It was part of a Pentagon-funded black budget program that went for years, between 2008 and 2013, and has been the most secure scientific research project delving into the paranormal.
And it's called?
Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker Ranch. Okay, now, Skinwalker refers to, a particular legend. And I'm guessing that you're familiar with that legend.
Yes.
You want to fill us in?
So Skinwalker Ranch derives its name from really a curse that was apparently placed on the property in the area. The ridge, there's a mesa plateau that runs the entire expanse of this property that the generations have referred to as Skinwalker Ridge. And some time ago, there was a rift between the Ute and the Navajo tribes. And the Navajo placed a curse on the property as a result of this rift that occurred, and stated that this was in the path of the Skinwalker. Now, Skinwalkers are shape-shifting demonic entities of Native American lore. Basically Native American witches that have essentially sold their souls in order to be able to take on the skin of an animal or creature, and to be able to morph and to shift their presence and really attain some measure of immortality, if you will.
Right.
It has been an interesting journey. I never intended to reveal my identity as the
I
owner.
noticed that. Okay, now here's the other thing. Okay, you've got a holding company, and I'm not quite exactly sure how you pronounce it.
Adamantium.
Okay.
So it's adamantium real estate.
What does that mean?
Well, adamantium is the most powerful alloy in Marvel Comics fame.
There we go.
So Wolverine's claws were made of adamantium. I mean, it's virtually indestructible alloy, really drawn from an alien meteor that apparently came to Earth. And,
so translation, Brandon Fugal, is
indestructible.
A science, a sci-fi geek.
Yeah. So adamantium is essentially, it's an indestructible alloy.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
in forming my enterprise to hold the most infamous and scientifically studied paranormal hotspot on the planet, I felt like that would be an appropriate
that fits.
holding company to be able to administer the activities.
So that was a while back. So what made you decide to come out of the shadows?
The History Channel, producers of the History Channel persuaded me to reveal my identity as part of a new investigative series called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, which was a huge hit this past year, and season 2 will begin airing in the next few months. following the investigation and efforts of my team. But before being persuaded by the History Channel to reveal my identity this past year, I had no intention of ever going public with me being the owner of the ranch. I did not want my interest in those topics and my ownership of that property to in any way conflict with or undermine my primary business activities and focus, which is commercial real estate.
Right. How's that working out so far?
So far, so good. 95% of my time is laser focused on commercial real estate and economic development. It is a small minority of my time that is devoted to supporting the efforts relative to Skinwalker Ranch and the scientific research that continues 24/7. You know, a lot of people are surprised when they hear that this property for 24 years has been locked down, has been under constant armed surveillance and camera surveillance, studying the
Why the security?
unknown.
Why the high security?
A number of reasons. You know, people who've ended up in the hospital with strange, mysterious, unexplained illnesses. Even this past year, we had members of our team and crew that have ended up having acute medical episodes. And if you go back, you know, generations, I mean, this site has been really the site of not only very disturbing cattle mutilation phenomena that has occurred in broad daylight, but also, you know, some malevolent forces that have been witnessed by numerous people. And so you're dealing with forces that are unexplained, that are unknown. You also have natural hazards there as well. I mean, we have mountain lions. I mean, you know, my team recently captured on camera, you know, a bear that was passing through the property. And so it is truly a ranch out in the middle of the Uintah Basin, out in the middle of nowhere.
I've noticed that there's all kinds of electrical phenomenon that go on out there. There's all kinds of different readings and things like that. Out of all this stuff, is there anything in particular that you go, okay, you've read, you did your research, I have no doubt you did a huge amount of research on this thing before you acquired it. Out of all the stuff, now that you're on the other side, you're inside looking out, what's the thing that you now know that you didn't know before that surprised you the most?
Good question. You know, I bought the ranch as a skeptic, as a healthy skeptic. I had never seen a UFO, a ghost, an orb, or anything of the sort in my life. And I disclosed that to the previous owner, an elusive billionaire out of Las Vegas named Robert Bigelow, Bigelow Aerospace. And I fully expected that, you know, in bringing my team of scientists and security professionals onto the site, that we would ultimately learn that there was a 95% chance, I think, that there was a natural prosaic explanation for all that had been reported on the site. And it was highly unlikely, in my view, that there was anything truly extraordinary or unusual going on. In fact, I wouldn't have been surprised to uncover that it was nothing more than an adult scientific snipe hunt of sorts.
Okay.
I was wrong. You know,
Really?
I found in time, as our investigation unfolded, that the evidence just continues to get more compelling than ever. Electromagnetic anomalies matched with eyewitness and, you know, videographic, you know, witness accounts, and so much documentation really attests to the reality of the strange phenomena.
How long have things been happening out there, you think?
You know, we've been able to document high strangeness on this property going back nearly 100 years. So we have actual, you know, firsthand historical accounts of everything from, you know, the cattle mutilation phenomena to UFO activity going back, you know, nearly 100 years. And so it's, and you know, the locals, you know, that have been there for generations, you know, attest to the fact that it's been going on for millennia.
Well, that makes, because it does beg the question. I mean, it's right up against the Ute tribe land. you know, the reservation
No, it's
out there.
completely surrounded by tribal lands.
Oh, totally surrounded.
Yep.
Wow.
It's completely surrounded by tribal lands. There's only one way in, one way out. We actually control the road. You know, we've privatized the road access in and out of the property, but it really is sequestered and secure, which makes it really the ideal living laboratory for scientific exploration.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, do the local Indian tribe think you guys are nuts to be in there? Or, I mean, because I would think that
Yes.
they would think that, you know, hey, this is not exactly a safe place.
Well, interestingly, you know, the first time I saw the property, I flew in my helicopter to inspect it, and we were escorted across the property by Bigelow security, armed security, ex-military that were watching over the ranch 24/7. And one thing that I noticed that caught my attention on that first tour is there were these animal parts. They were actually bladders that were hanging from the fence line perimeter of the property. This seemed really out of place and unusual, almost disturbing.
Right.
I mean, just it was haunting. And I asked the security, I said, what is the nature of these animal carcasses or these parts that are hanging from the fence line perimeter? And he said, well, the tribal members have placed that on the property or on the perimeter of the property in order to keep the skinwalkers and the entities inside your property and off of theirs, to keep the entities from traveling onto tribal lands.
So they're hoping, they like fences, but they want to reinforce it a bit.
This is real. This is very real to them. I mean, they tell their youth, don't even look the direction of Skinwalker Ranch, because you may have phenomena follow you home. There's a certain thing called the hitchhiker effect that is discussed relative to the ranch and some of this high strangeness, where people who have visited the property claim on a number of occasions that they are followed, that strange phenomena follows them home. And this isn't just your casual visitors. I mean, these people that have had these experiences include, I think, some of the most skilled, trained military operatives in the world, and scientists that have done tours of duty, if you will, on the property.
I'll be darned. Well, that's a little crazy.
It is.
Okay. How far in advance do you film things?
Months. So we filmed this past year over about a 4-month period. You know, there was a whole team that came in from Los Angeles with the History Channel to just follow the hour-to-hour, day-to-day activities of my team. Yeah, my team, it's a multidisciplinary team of scientists, engineers, even ranch hands that have been part of the investigation. We even have an anthropologist, a published anthropologist that is one of the caretakers that lives, actually resides on site full time in what we call Homestead 1, which is a 100-year-old homestead on one side of the property that continues to see strange activity.
You initially did not want to do anything with the History Channel.
No, I had no interest in opening the gates to any type of televised effort or any cameras. I wanted to keep it completely private, not only to maintain the integrity of the scientific investigation, but also to keep my identity and the identity of really my team confidential.
Right. What changed your mind? I mean, because you had parameters that you asked them for.
Well, the History Channel, they'd reached out to me for over a year and had failed to get an audience with me. My intermediaries, my managers, continued to be instructed that I had no interest.
Good gatekeepers.
Yeah, I had no interest in engaging, and I finally reluctantly took a meeting. You know, so long as those involved signed confidentiality and liability waivers. And in that meeting, I told them, well, if I was to consider opening the ranch up for cameras to document the work of our team, you know, I had a number of strict conditions that would need to be followed. Number one, it had to be absolute truth nothing could be fabricated, contrived, or made up. I mean, everything that would be recorded and documented would have to be 100% true.
Okay.
And I had to have final cut to ensure that the integrity of that would be followed. Number two, they had to use my team. There was no Hollywood casting call. I had no interest in bringing in, outsiders and really potentially compromising the integrity of what we had built there on site and the synergy between this multidisciplinary group of people that I pulled together. None of these people, by the way, had any television experience. None of them had been in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
So this was a new experience and a jarring experience for many of these people. The third condition that I had was that my identity would remain absolutely confidential, that I would never be revealed as the owner. They came back and they said, we have no problem granting your first two conditions, but your third, we disagree with. We feel that in order to authentically present what is really happening at Skinwalker Ranch, you have to be involved and you have to go public, or else it comes off as being inauthentic and feeling contrived. And they also stated that Skinwalker Ranch in this scientific investigation is really your spiritual journey, Brandon Fugal, and to not have you tell your story, which is essentially what pulled this ragtag team of people together in service to science discovery and really delving into these very controversial topics. I mean, they felt it was necessary for me to come forward, and I was convinced. The late Kevin Burns, he was my partner and executive producer. He passed away this past year. Was arguably the most prolific producer on cable television, was the one who persuaded me, and I think he was right. I think it was appropriate for me to come out of the shadows and to come forward and reveal not only my identity, but also my motivations, my intentions relative to the property. As I'd mentioned, I bought it as a skeptic, fully expecting that there was a natural, prosaic explanation for what had been reported for decades, if not millennia, out there. And I felt that bringing science and technology to the table and the right group of people would help us understand the nature of what was really going on out there, and to have been quite surprised that that there is truth. There is absolute truth and legitimacy to the claims that have been made for so long.
Any regrets going public?
Sometimes, but in general, no. No regrets. I'm actually quite proud of our efforts. I believe that this is the greatest science project of our time. And I know that's a bold statement. That's a very bold statement. There's a lot of hyperbole in that. But I truly believe that if you can prove that we are part of a multidimensional universe, that we're not alone, that we may be visited, that there may be more to our existence, an intelligent design behind what is happening here on this planet and the universe in general, that is the greatest endeavor, I believe, of our time. And I think we have really a unique opportunity with Skinwalker Ranch being the center of gravity for so much of this phenomenology that I think is opening new doors of understanding.
Now, Brandon, at the beginning of this interview, you mentioned you lived in Utah for pretty much all your life, but for 2 years you were in Hawaii.
Right.
I'm guessing, coming from Utah, that probably has some kind of religious significance.
Yeah, I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and was very fortunate to get my call to Hawaii and to be able to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ for 2 years.
Wow, at Hawaii? Oh, geez, not
it's
bad.
tough duty. Someone asked to do it.
Someone had to do it. Well, so the natural question I have, though, is, okay, so you've got religion here, and then you've got Skinwalker Ranch, and, do those conflict at all?
It's a good question. I was raised to believe that there are worlds without number, that we're not alone in the universe, and that there is an intelligent, divine nature to our existence. And I feel that our research out at Skinwalker Ranch and the experiences that I have had so far have been nothing but faith affirming. If anything, I believe it has all been in alignment with my faith. And it's been a key part of my spiritual journey. I'm asked almost daily whether what we're observing is interstellar, is it aliens from other worlds, is it multidimensional or interdimensional phenomena, or is it ghosts and angels? Is it spiritual? My answer, yes.
Yep, okay.
All the above. I believe that we have documented evidence showing that we could be very well interacting with beings from other worlds, and I do believe that what we're observing is multidimensional in many cases in nature. I mean, the very belief in a spirit world or an afterlife really is consistent with multidimensional realities. And you know, I was raised to believe that the spirit world or the next life is right here alongside us and is just as real, just as present as our mortal existence and this reality. But proving it scientifically, you know, with empiricism is quite another challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the great discoveries that we have before us at Skinwalker Ranch is the ability to, for the first time, validate that we aren't alone in the universe, that we do potentially live in a multidimensional reality. And the things that we're experiencing, that we're documenting, while terrifying in many ways, are inspiring as well.
What's the question you get asked the most from a business standpoint?
I mean, most people ask, why would someone in your position acquire a piece of property out in the middle of nowhere that has a very controversial history and it could be argued is a liability as opposed to an asset? And you know, in addition to my spiritual journey and my motivation in service to scientific discovery, you know, I think, you know, the business aspect of this, I mean, being in real estate, to have the opportunity to acquire the most intriguing piece of real estate on the planet, being in my position, is a great honor.
Oh, yeah, because I don't
privilege.
think an average person would have been able to even remotely have access to even try to purchase this.
No, it wasn't for sale. And Mr. Bigelow from Bigelow Aerospace, I think, was looking for someone not to necessarily acquire it, but to carry forward the stewardship. And you know, I see my ownership as a stewardship, and we try to approach the ranch with a degree of reverence, with the degree of professionalism that I believe is really warranted given the gravity of what we're exploring.
So you've owned this land for a while, and you know, you kind of came in as a skeptic.
Correct.
Are there anything that you can relate that you've personally experienced that you went, ooh dear?
You bet. You know, it was funny, for 6 months, for the first 6 months of owning this property, even though my team was starting to capture on video and with their cameras strange phenomena, you know, UFO craft over the property and other you know, electromagnetic anomalies. You know, seeing is believing. And I had yet to see anything, you know, the first 6 months of visiting on a month-to-month basis that I would call, you know, strange or unusual. In fact, I found the ranch to be a surprisingly striking landscape. It's just a beautiful backdrop. It's right out of Westworld or a John Wayne movie, and is just an incredibly beautiful landscape. And you know, that first 6 months of owning it, I really saw nothing myself that would lead me to believe that there was anything unusual happening. Well, that all changed, and you know, I had really, with multiple witnesses with me, an occasion where we saw what can only be described as an unidentified flying object, a craft, 40, 50 foot long silver disc, hovering right above the mesa, right in front of us. This wasn't just a blinking light in the sky or something that was a little bit ambiguous. This was a solid object that appeared out of nowhere, could move in the blink of an eye, and in fact, over about a 20-second period, perform maneuvers that I believe defy any propulsion physics that we're acquainted with, and was gone literally in the blink of an eye at the end of the episode, literally either blasted off and was reduced to a dot or blinked out of our view.
And who else was there with you at the time?
It was the security detail that was accompanying a dignitary.
Oh,
that was
really?
visiting. Yeah. And they, that same morning, these gentlemen that witnessed this event with me, both stated that they were skeptics and they didn't believe that there was any validity to the UFO phenomenon, that they were just simply there to support the gentleman that they were accompanying.
Too bad you didn't have cameras rolling right then, huh?
Well, our phones went from about 80-90% charge to 0
Really?
the hour before. All of our devices were completely drained. Shortly before this event, we had to go back and plug them in the command center there on the ranch. And so it was unfortunate, of course,
Oh, yeah.
that the event occurred without being filmed. But I have to tell you, it all happened within about a 20-second period of time, and it was so surreal and caught us all off guard in such a way that you always hope that you'd have the presence of mind, but nothing prepares you for an event like that. And it has changed my perception. I can't unsee that. I can't deny the reality of what I witnessed with others that day, and it has driven my desire to bring, I think the finest, scientific platforms and investigation to the table.
So did you do one of those? Did you see
Yeah.
that?
We were in shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in complete shock. It caught us all off guard. To this day, I am surprised.
Truth be told, my wife and I had the same experience.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's real.
Oh, yeah, I saw one thing and we were, what the heck
Yeah.
was that?
Well, anyone who does their due diligence, anyone who actually conducts any degree of serious due diligence relative to the phenomena, will find that there is absolute reality. You have trained fighter pilots, radar technicians, you have law enforcement professionals, you have thousands of eyewitnesses that will attest and have gone on record to the reality and regarding the reality of what is happening. Things aren't always as they seem, and
That is true.
there's more to our existence on this planet and this universe.
Well, there's a fun little phrase that I say, the older I get, the more I realize how little I know.
Yeah. Amen.
And thanks again for coming. A couple other people we want to thank. Of course, we did the hand sanitizing, with Five Wise. Yes, they do make adult beverages. Rustico, of course, makes my journals. Taylor Cooperative is the guys that make my clothes. Clear nasal spray. Okay, now, here's a strange one for you, okay? You wash your hands, but have you thought about, not kidding, washing your nose? Okay, Clear. I have American Fork. These guys have figured out a way so that you prevent the COVID thing from sticking to your nose.
Wow.
What a deal,
Sounds compelling.
It is. And then, of course, don't forget JW Custom Hats. Here's the thing I want people to remember. Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. With another entry into Jessops Journal and Brandon Fugal, I'm Doug Jessop, ABC4 News.